Hey everyone, I'm Austin Hankwitz.
And I'm Jannese Torres, and this is Mind the Business, Small Business Success Stories, a podcast brought to you by Intuit QuickBooks and iHeartRadio. And we're coming to you live from the iHeartRadio Theater here in Burbank, California. Thank you so much for being here.
We could not be more excited that all you guys are here right now. I mean, this is such a dream come true. Seeing all these awesome faces and the smiles, I'm just so pumped up.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't believe we're in 2 seasons of this show already.
2 seasons of the show already. I mean, season 1 and season 2 has been so inspiring, right? The talented entrepreneurs that we've been able to talk to and learn from is just jaw-dropping. And I'm so excited for this episode.
Yeah, we've learned a lot. We have learned about delegation, raising capital, and also bouncing back from those difficult times in business, which, if you own a business, it can happen. Today, we're going to be talking about building and maintaining a balanced business ecosystem. What does that mean?
Ecosystem. This is in science class.
Yeah. So we're actually talking about how you keep everything in your company working together and in harmony, because just like a real ecosystem, when you make a change in your business ecosystem, that can have an impact on everything.
Absolutely. And to help us talk about that, we're joined by Will Lucas. Will is an entrepreneur many times over. He's the CEO and founder of Creadio, a marketing and production agency, and the founder and CEO of TolHouse, a private members-only social club in his hometown of Toledo, Ohio.
That's amazing. So not only that, but Will also serves as brand manager for Afrotech, which is the largest Black tech digital platform, and Black Tech Green Money, where he leads brand strategy. On top of that, he also hosts the podcast Black Tech Green Money. And in 2012, Will was appointed co-chair of the Ohio Small Business Owners for Obama Committee, part of the Obama for America campaign. Okay? So please,
we got an expert.
Everyone, welcome our special guest to the stage, Will Lucas. How you doing?
What's up, what's up, what's up?
Hey, it's good to be here. It's good to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us, man. We're super excited.
Absolutely. Hey, how y'all doing?
All right, well, we have a lot to talk about, so I want to get right into your story. Tell us about your entrepreneurship origin story. What made you want to take the leap and being your own boss and start your own business?
Yeah, I always knew that I was going to be running my own business one day. I thought it was going to be in the music business, though. Oh. And so I was, one of those kids who wanted to be a songwriter and music producer. And so I started radio before I got into actual business because it was the closest thing in my hometown to the music business. And so I met a program director for a radio station at a teen summit, and I said, "Hey, my name's Will Lucas. I want to be in the music business." And he's like it's just like that. And he's like, best thing I can tell you to do is find an internship somewhere. And so there was a line of young people waiting to talk to him. So he said, "Come out to the radio station, and we'll talk some more." So I went out to the radio station the next day, and he's like, again, best thing I tell you to do is find an internship somewhere. Matter of fact, we need an intern here. And so my internship in radio started that day. And so fast forward, I just happened to be good at radio. So I did it for 2 years, and I was in a clothing store, and they were playing FM radio over their sound system. And inevitably, the commercials come on, and one of their competitors came on over the air inside their store. And I'm like, this don't make a lot of sense. They need their own radio station that just talks about them. This light bulb goes off, and I'm like, I just did all these years of radio. I can build that. And so that was my entree into business.
Yeah, it's always that kind of like light bulb moment for most of us.
It was for me. Yeah, so that business is Creadio, the one that created custom radio stations for brands. And so what happened was I had the idea it was just a concept, what if I created these custom radio stations for brands? And I told a mentor of mine, and he owned 6 restaurants at the time. And I said, hey, I got this idea for this business, this project. And I said, what if I created like custom radio stations for brands? And he said, he was not a brief, guy. He was, can be a little long-winded sometimes. But, when I told him the idea, his eyes got big and he just said, do it. And that was all he said. So I knew I had something. And so that's the inception
Yeah.
of Creadio there.
Tell me about one of the proudest moments you've had in that journey.
Oh, man. How many guys in the room are business owners or you want to be a business owner? You know, okay, most of the room, shout out to y'all because this road is not for the faint of heart. And so I think for me, and maybe if you have a product out there or a service out there, the most joy you can get is when somebody you don't know asks to purchase your product because they owe you nothing. And so it's different than when like your cousin wants it or your neighbor wants to support you or like your mom is like, hey, let me pull out my change out of my bra, but it's like, but when somebody who doesn't know you sees value in what you built, it's the most incredible feeling. And I wish that for everybody.
Yeah, it becomes addictive, I would say.
100%. 100%.
You founded the members only social club in your hometown of Toledo, Ohio. So what sparked that idea? How do you go from radio to, hold on, let's all listen to jazz music?
Absolutely. And so I'm not from LA or New York. And so I'm over, what do they call the flyover states? I'm from Ohio. And what people think, generally, I'm generalizing here. Broadly, when people don't know Ohio or don't know the Midwest, they think it's a bunch of cornfields and they think it's so much agriculture. And it's some of that, but it's not just that. And so what we wanted to do with TolHouse was to organize Toledo's doers. And so the people who were doing the work to help our community be what it could be if we got out of our own way. And so TolHouse is a private social club, and it's 5 bars, 5 lounges, a coffee house. There's a jazz club in there. It's a co-working space, 25,000 square feet. And so we've got all these amenities to be a playground for adult professionals because what we're trying to do is organize the people, the doers. And so I wanted a place, that I could go as a member or as a consumer where I knew if I walked in, I was going to see somebody who could change my life or I could change theirs. And so it's different than walking into just a regular coffee house where I probably don't need to know who you are. But if I'm walking into a place where the people here were vetted to be here, that's a room I want to be in.
Before this interview, we were talking a little bit out in the lobby, and I asked you, I was like, yes, like, where do you live? And you're like, oh, I'm actually from Toledo, Ohio. Like, I live there. And I'm just like, someone on your level, you'd think, would move to LA or New York or Chicago or something, but you didn't. You stayed in Toledo. So walk me through the mindset shift that someone at your level had to make of like, wait, I really want to, build for where I'm from. I want to give people where I'm from the opportunity.
It's part of that, but it's about finding the white space. Like, where is the opportunity? Yeah. And so if I wanted to build a social club, not that it's impossible, but if I wanted to build a social club in Chicago or in New York or in LA, there's a ton of social clubs in Chicago or New York or LA. But the whole goal of business is to find where the opportunity is. And so I'm not going to try to start a business that everybody else is starting in that same vertical or that same category. I want to find where's the opportunity, where are the people who want this but don't have access to it. Those are the lanes I'm trying to fill.
I love that. And kind of staying on this topic of TolHouse, I saw you guys just launched an app.
Yeah.
You guys have a wine club. I saw on your website something about like cigars. And so like this seems to have evolved a lot over, several years now. So how has the business evolved from when you started to where it is today?
Yeah, I mean, so TolHouse, I said it's 25,000 square feet. It was just a big, empty, no walls building when I bought it. And, I kind of just let the building speak to me. Like I said, what should be here? What would I want if I was a member? And so as we started to build out spaces, I knew there had to be a bar. I knew there was going to be a coffee house. But we just started to listen to our members and like, what are the things that we're missing in our community that we used to have or we always wanted, but we never had an opportunity to, participate in those things. And we hadn't had a jazz club in Toledo in over 10 years. And so because they had all closed. And so I just let the building speak to me. And then as we started to hang out and just enjoy the spaces, you're like, it would be really cool if we had a co-working space in here. Because what we found was members didn't just want to eat. They didn't just want to hang out and listen to music, but they also wanted to work. And they wanted to be able to collaborate together. And so 6,000 square feet of the building is pure co-working space. So there's 5 conference rooms / boardrooms. And there's, phone booths that you can just take, private phone calls in. There's a theater in there. So you can just relax and just enjoy yourself because you want to take that break from being on conference calls all day. And so what we tried to do was fill the gap for what you missed when you were locked down over that year in COVID. And you want to be back around people, but you also want the hybrid, to where you can socialize and work.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, obviously you have a lot on your plate. You're running a lot of different businesses. You got a lot of moving parts. Can you describe the ecosystems for both Creadio and for TolHouse? Like, how do you structure these businesses for success?
Yeah, so the great part currently is the Creadio office is inside TolHouse. So I get to work. And I get to have both of my teams in the building, and I'm creating vertical integration, I should say. And so my marketing company, video production, website development, communication strategy, design, app development, built and does the videos and does the strategy for TolHouse.
Synergies.
And so my Creadio team can work in the spaces. We can have our board meetings in there, our conference calls in there, and then they can enjoy, the coffee house. So all these things are completely vertically integrated.
Do you think that the way that you envision building business is kind of separate from the type of business that it is? Or do you think you have to build them differently just based on what type of business you're creating?
Yeah, I do think it's different because I sort of think about that the way of how you deal with people is what you need is not what she needs to perform well. And so if I can pay attention to what motivates you, then I can get the best out of you and you feel best about the work that you're performing. But what motivates you doesn't motivate him necessarily. And so the same thing for the businesses that you build. So just because you do one thing well and you perform well, and this makes you have to pay attention to what your business is asking for, because your business is like a child, honestly. And so one thing I love, I've been doing Creadio since 2007, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way. So I'm not here to say everything's great and rosy.
Oh, we're going to get into those.
Yeah, and so this stuff is painful, and it's lonely. And so one of the early mistakes that I know we'll talk more about this, but I'll give you one because you mentioned this is I was the only employee of Creadio for so many years, and nobody taught me reinvesting the profits. And so I didn't grow up in a wealthy family or all these things, and I didn't have a lot of business mentors. I had mentors in different respects, but nobody said when you start making money, put it back in the business. So when I made, a little bit of money, I'm like, oh, we can go put cheese on it now. We can go supersize, all these things. So I'm like, we got money now.
Getting the guac
we can put the guac, extra guac, you know what I'm saying? So we can do that. And so all those things robbed the business of the oxygen it needed. And because nobody taught me.
That kind of goes into the question I had for you, right? Which is, if you would ask me the first big decision I had to make as a business owner now of 4.5, 5 years is hiring someone, right? Hiring help is, it's overwhelming. It is so overwhelming. So
it can be. And I think we have this confusion about it's overwhelming, or I don't want to let somebody down, or I don't want to fire somebody, or I don't want to miss payroll and all these things. It's because we don't do it properly. And what I've learned is a lot of that anxiety could be reduced. It won't go away, but it can be reduced if I know what I'm hiring for. And it's not just in my head, but it's on paper. And I can define what success looks like. Because when you hire as an entrepreneur, you want somebody who's running around like a chicken with their head cut off like you are. And that's the wrong way to hire people. It's if you're hiring somebody and you expecting them to move as fast as you're moving and do as much as you're doing, they are going to fail. I guarantee that, because they are not you. They were not the person with this idea. They were not the person with this vision. They ain't the people with this energy. They here to help you and be aloneness, and they may not even be here to help you, but they're here to get something. And so if I can set you up for success, the only way to do that is to specify and designate what success looks like. And not just in my head, but it's got to be on paper. How are you measuring my performance? Because if you are saying, I need you to be as crazy and frenetic as I am, I'm not crazy and I'm not frenetic. So how am I going to be successful in that environment? But if I say I'm hiring you because I need 5 social media posts a day. I need them to have these particular sort of hashtags. I need them to have these sorts of images. I can actually look and see if you did 5 social media posts a day that has these specific hashtags that you gave me, and they have these sort of corresponding images. But if you just say, go out there and you see what I'm doing, pick up the slack and et cetera, I'm set up to fail because I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And therefore, you're looking at me like I made the wrong hire. And you might have, but you might not have, but you didn't set that person up to be successful.
I want you to double click on that a little bit more because I think maybe a lot of people listening right now, they want to make those hires for the very specific tasks and deliverables. Like I totally get that. That exists, right? You can go check on the social media. You can see how many cold emails they send, whatever. But what about the hires that need to help with strategy, that need to help with, maybe sales decks and pitching and like things of that nature? How have you navigated that over the years?
Yeah, so if it's me, I would start with a consultant. And so that's somebody that you don't necessarily need to bring on immediately, but I need to make sure I know what I'm looking for. Because the thing about entrepreneurship, and we talk about business and entrepreneurship are corresponding, but they're not the same. And so if you're an entrepreneur like I am, I don't always know what I need. Mm-hmm. And so I'm assuming I know what I need. And so I would rather bring you on as a contractor or or maybe get an advisor to help me accomplish this thing so I can better define what I need. And so the worst thing you can do is bring somebody on and not know how to define success for them. And so if you're not sure, don't bring that person on, but contract them out for a period of time. And then, so when you part ways, it's a lot easier and there's no bridges burned and nobody's feelings are hurt.
Well, I think something else that you breezed over that I really want to emphasize is sort of having that vulnerability of saying, I don't know how to do this. Yeah. Can you help me? Right? Yeah. Because I think as small business owners and entrepreneurs, like there's always a task or, a hurdle that we have to get over that I don't know how to do it. Absolutely. And I've texted Jannese before. I'm like, hey, what do you do for this? I don't know how. You've been doing this longer than me. What's going on? Right? And I think that's what's so powerful, not just about this podcast, but about the conversations we're having is like giving people the confidence to ask for help, right? It's just...
Absolutely. I mean, the thing about entrepreneurship, you typically, again, another broad generalization, but entrepreneurs are typically good at something, mm-hmm. and then they want to go make a business out of it. But when you're good at something, that doesn't mean it's a business yet. It's a business when you start putting together business practices, when you start operationalizing it. And so there's a difference between owning a business and owning a job. They're two different things. And so if you want to be a business owner, then the job is to get out of the machinations of running the business. My business is running right now. I'm not there. Yeah. That's the goal, 100%. To get to a place to where you're not having to be there making the donuts in order for the donut shop to run. And now, if you want to do that, if you want to be the artisan, that's fantastic. I told my barber this, about 6 years ago, because he was asking me business advice. And I said, if you're cutting hair in 2 years because you have to cut hair, you're doing something wrong. But if you're cutting hair because you want to cut hair, and he owned the barbershop, by the way. But if you're cutting hair because you want to cut hair in 2 years, that's the place that you want to be in. Not because you have to do it, because you love to do it. And so if you're making donuts in your donut shop because you have to, the goal is to get out of the place where you have to, where you got to be the one to open the doors and turn the lights on and turn the lights off at the end of the day and turn the ovens on, all these things. The goal is to get out of that system. You want to put people in place that can scale past you because you as one person can only do so much.
Mm-hmm. Something I learned, I think it was last year, and you really emphasize it here, which was, working in the business versus working on the business.
Absolutely.
And being able to go from in to on. I've not yet done that, but I mean, that's the goal, 100%.
That's 100% the goal. The goal for business is to build something that's bigger than you.
Yeah.
And so, again, I don't want to own a job. I used to own a job. When the first 10 years of Creadio, I was the one installing sound systems in restaurants. And I don't, look back. I don't look poorly on those days because I learned so much. But you want to get out of. You don't want to be stuck there. And so I admonish you: the as fast as you can hire somebody, defining what you need, it's the best thing you can do for your business.
So, kind of thinking back to those days, can you recall maybe a misstep or disruption that happened that kind of threw off the ecosystem?
Not documenting. Those were big missteps. I highly encourage anybody who's starting off, even if it's just you're having a board meeting of one, it's just you've got to document. And as tech savvy as we are, as technological as we become, as innovative as we become, there are certain business practices that you've got to learn, and you've got to learn how to pull out a pen and write something down. You've got to learn how to pull out an iPad and take a note. You've got to learn how to get your receipt and scan it. There are certain things you have to do as a business person, or you end up getting in trouble. And so if the business and how to turn on the lights is not written down, then you're at risk. If what happens when you turn in your receipts to your accountant and your bookkeeper and your stuff is all over the place, you got a problem. And if you are not setting yourself up in an organized fashion, because I understand I'm an entrepreneur, I got 4 businesses in 4 buildings all over the place. Organization is the work. That is the work. Knowing my numbers is the work. And if I'm not documenting, and if I'm not keeping records, and if I'm not making sure I'm putting operational, SOPs written on paper, we got a problem.
Well, I'll tell you what keeps me organized. Intuit QuickBooks.
Absolutely. Listen, I've been using QuickBooks for 20 years. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been talking about hiring and the importance of, vetting your employees and making sure that they know kind of what is at stake, what their mission statement is. Can you talk about how you create a work environment where your employees actually feel seen and heard?
Yeah. So number one, I am try to be as conscious in the interview as I can be, because you can see the flags in an interview. And if you get a little hint, like something I ain't like about that answer, that's the flag. Listen to the voice in your head that says something ain't right about that one. And so I say that to say is paying attention to the little things, paying attention to how when people when your staff or your potential staff is responding to things, and not glossing over it because you're so busy and you're so, again, running all over the place. Because this is the thing about entrepreneurship is when you're building, everything needs you. And so then you get into this place to where you overlook things that you shouldn't overlook just because you need help. And that is the worst thing you can do for your business. I would rather grow slower with the right people or with just me than grow fast with the wrong people. Because if you grow fast with the wrong people, the wheels are going to fall off. So you think you're on a sprint and you think you're doing well, but you're not really doing well because you're building with, things that are broken. And so I would hire quickly if you can find the right people, but make sure that they know what their success looks like, how you're measuring them, and pay attention to the small things. Pay attention. If something didn't sound right in that response you gave me in this interview, I'm gonna pay attention to that because I can tell that you actually didn't do what you said you did, or something's on your resume is not adding up, the dates ain't adding up, or whatever it is. You gotta pay attention to those things.
So we should not hire based on vibes, is what I hear you say.
I mean, I think vibes matter, but I also think like it's understanding truth. And actually, I'm going to pick up the phone and call a previous employer. I need to find out, are you really who you say you are? I need to know if you just didn't go back because you didn't want to go back to the job, but did they not want you back at that other job? Yeah. And sometimes that's the case. And so it's worth it to you to do the hard work. My father said something when I was growing up, I'll never forget it. And he said, everybody in life pays. Everybody pays. Some people pay now, some people pay later. I'd rather pay now so that I don't have to pay later. And what I mean by that in this context is I would rather do the hard work now to make sure you're the right person than pay for it in 6 months when I find out you couldn't do all you said you could do.
Okay, so we obviously, as entrepreneurs and employers, we want to kind of strike that balance between building a place that's a great place to work at, but also be able to serve our clients effectively. So how do you balance that?
Listening. That's the game, is listening to them. And they don't always know what they're asking for either. We don't always know what we're looking for. As consumers, we don't always know what the solution is. We just know we have a need. And it is your job as the business owner, as the entrepreneur, to figure out the best and most efficient, cost-effective way to solve the problem. But the consumer doesn't always know how to define the problem. But if you're paying attention to what they say, the words they use, how they use the products that they have today, you can find solutions if you're paying attention. So the job is to be ears all day long, eyes, paying attention. The job is not to talk. The job is to figure out what people need and to be able to satiate that need somehow.
Love that.
I need to listen more. That's good advice. You know, as we think back to when you began building out your ecosystem, was the priority on the customers? Was it on growing the business, or was it on employees? If you had to pick one as the most important part of your success, if this ecosystem, customers, business growth, right, reinvesting, or was it the employees?
I mean, nothing matters if you don't have somebody who wants to buy your product.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I can have 10 employees, but if ain't nobody buying nothing, I got no employees, including me, real quick. I mean, you want to find a need or a desire in the marketplace that people are willing to pay for at a level that can sustain and grow. That's the definition of business. Find a need or a desire that people will pay for at a level that allows you to be able to consistently produce the outcome for them. And so that does not mean employees. That does not mean building. That does not mean product. That means fulfilling something, satiating it, because what you think is the product could actually not be the product. It could be something else. It could be a service instead of a product. It could be a product instead of a service. And so the job is to figure out, can I find a need in the marketplace or desire in the marketplace that I actually am interested in fulfilling? So if you can find that match in marriage, you will go through the hard times when they get hard, because they're inevitably going to be hard, but you'll get the energy to continue on. I just don't want people to get caught up on, hey, I got the best idea. And everybody in here has got a great idea.
Yeah.
Everybody in here knows somebody with a great idea. And some of the people you know with a great idea will never do anything with it. That's just how it works, because it ain't about having the great idea alone. It's about having a good enough idea that people are willing to pay for, and then a whole bunch of work. That's it.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. It reminds me of, I'm going to butcher the quote here, but Alex Hormozy, a guy I watch on YouTube, he had a quote that was like, success happens as an entrepreneur when you do the mundane things for longer than anyone imagines wanting to do that,
Absolutely.
right? So it's like doing those things that you know you're good at, and everyone else is like, I don't know, I don't want to do that. But you do it for so long, you become so good at it. And then people start buying products and services from you that have no idea who you are, because it's all word of mouth. I mean, it's compounding. It really is.
And we live in a day, and this is for people in the building, specifically with products, but it may also work for services too. Like the day we live in, the best thing you can do is build a brand. Mm-hmm. And in building a brand, that means you become and you present yourself as somebody that I will follow you wherever you go. If you put out a book, I'm buying it. If you put out a t-shirt, I'm buying it. If you put out a class, I'm buying it, because I dig what you talking about, and I'm into how you present yourself to the world. And so it is cool to have a product, and you will do a lot of work trying to sell that product. But if you spend the time on the brand, people will buy whatever you put out.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah. So, Will, what's next for you and your business ecosystem here over the next, call it 18, 24 months?
Grow.
Yeah.
I'm doing what I'm living my dream. And the goal now is just to continue growing. And so I don't imagine I'll be doing anything different in 5 years that I'm doing now. It'll just be bigger.
I like that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And I love what you said about building a brand, you know, that you want to kind of be associated with being the lead expert in your industry. And I think QuickBooks is actually really good at doing that. Because when you think about accounting, it's like, duh, why not?
And I would say, like, this last thing on brand, and I'm happy to talk about whatever, like, but the last thing I'll say on brand is stay on brand also, because it is so easy to get compelled. Like I tell you, like when I told you I did radio for a period of time, and then I kept getting asked to do more radio stuff, and I didn't want to be seen as the radio guy. And so I had to stop accepting radio stuff. And so I had to stop emceeing for a period of time. I had to stop, DJing for a period of time. I love to DJ, but there was I was trying to change how my perception was in the world. And so I had to divorce myself from certain things because they would continue to perpetuate what people saw me as. I wanted them to see me and respect me as a business person and a technologist. And so you have to protect. And if you're clear on what you want to do. So I talked about being clear on how you judge your employees and et cetera. Are you clear on you? Are you clear on what you want your life to be? Like, it astonishes me that there are people who live and have never asked themselves what they want to be doing.
Yeah.
Like, what do I actually want in life? So many of us just do stuff, and we take opportunities, and we take things that may be opportunities but are not, and we just do stuff. But actually, what do you want? And so if I know and I'm clear on what I want, I know what doesn't help get me there.
That's powerful.
Yeah, I think
100%.
that's a great setup for my next question, which is let's talk to the small business owners who are considering making a change in their business structure, the ecosystem. They know maybe they're reaching a point where it's hard to scale the way things are right now, or they're evolving. So what advice would you give to them?
I think at the end of the day, everything is about designing in your mind and on paper, what do I want the future to look like? And I'm a big AI guy, so we use ChatGPT for a lot of these things. If I want, I typed this in ChatGPT the other day. I won't tell you what the answer was, but I'll tell you. So I typed this answer. I say, if I want TolHouse to be at X number in 5 years, what are the things I should be doing now to prepare me for that? And I got remarkable answers. You gonna steal that prompt?
I'm about to do that when I get home.
I think you should steal that prompt. That's a good prompt. So if you ask, ChatGPT or friends to say, if I want to be successful in 5 years, I want to be at this level in 5 years. What are the things I should be doing now? And so I think we live in a day where not just information is readily available, but ideas are readily available. And so surround yourself with people who help to push you further than you could imagine you could have gone. And if you continue to position yourself around people in rooms like this and et cetera, like y'all should get to know each other. If you position yourself in rooms like this, you will constantly be challenged and you will constantly grow and get better. But to specifically answer your question, business is about fundamentals. Always, all the time. It is always about how we delivering the best product to the consumer. At the end of the day, QuickBooks thinks about that. The biggest companies in the world think about that. The smallest companies in the world think about that. It's how do we do that? And so it's always having that hand-to-hand combat, to use that phrase, with the consumer, listening to them. They will tell you what they want.
Yeah, it kind of comes back to that quote by, I think it's Jeff Bezos with Amazon, right? Relentlessly obsessing over your customer.
Absolutely.
So Jannese alluded to it earlier. In 2012, you were the co-chair of the Ohio Small Business Owners for the Obama Committee, part of the Obama for America campaign. Yeah. What did that role entail? That's unreal.
So it's advocating around the state for some of the business policies that were alive around the time. Mm-hmm. And so we had a chance to go around the state of Ohio talking to small business owners and making sure that, the campaign at the time was designing, policy around what Ohioans actually need. So that's what we were doing.
So what did you were surrounding yourself, I'm sure, with a lot of people that were, boots on the ground, small business owners. What did you learn from them? I mean, people that you might not have surrounded yourself with in the first place, right? What lessons did you take and then apply to your own businesses?
Yeah, and I was one of them myself too. So I was with my peers. It's people I just didn't know before. And so one of the things that, I found interesting about Ohio entrepreneurs is that we are not afraid to get our hands dirty. We are not afraid to do, the mundane stuff that you talked about. So you may not see our businesses, on TV and in bright lights, but, these are businesses that you can't live without. And so a lot of the things that get put in, to support businesses that get the bright lights, I would much rather, somebody is a mentor of mine from a distance, because I believe people that I follow are also mentors. They just don't know it. You can laugh at that. That was funny. So he said, one of the greatest things about the gold rush is the actual money was made by the people who sold the picks and shovels. Oh. The gold rush wasn't necessarily the people who got rich, was not the people who found the gold, because everybody was looking for gold. But the people who sold the picks and shovels were the ones that actually made the money. And so when I say Ohio small businesses, to answer your question, we're the people who make picks and shovels. And so we make life work. in places that often get overlooked.
I love that. I love that answer so much.
Yeah. All right, so we're actually going to hop into some audience questions, maybe a little rapid fire style.
I dig it.
All right.
Who's excited?
Yeah,
Yeah, let's do it.
we've got some really great questions lined up for you. The first one is starting from Renee.
Are these business questions? Or
Yes.
Like,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I had to know how to
we
prepare
can
my
take
mind.
it whatever direction you want.
Okay.
We can get dating advice. What do you want to do?
Dig it.
All right, this first question is from Renee. When starting a new business, what is the best option in your opinion, LLC or Corp? And do you think you need to do this immediately, or should you wait until money starts coming in?
Yeah. I'm not a tax advisor.
Obviously,
I'm not
yes.
a lawyer.
Disclaimer.
So I'm gonna say that disclaimer. So it really just depends on the kind of business. So I will say that, and that's probably all I will say about the structure, because I'm not gonna get myself in trouble. There's people at QuickBooks who can answer that, I'm sure. But which is the one to do first? So there's different schools of thought of which you should do first. I am of the school of thought that says do enough to make sure you're protected and no more until you've got a customer waiting for it. I'm of that school of thought. There's different, but it also depends on which industry you're in. So obviously, if you're going to be in healthcare and you got to start up in healthcare, you need to do certain things. In regulated industries, you need to do certain things. But if you're, creating a new, shea butter, or you're doing, creating a new product or just a new service that isn't in a regulated industry, the most time you should be spent doing is finding somebody who will pay you, period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to what you said before, which was, if you don't have customers, you don't have employees, you don't have everything else.
You have oxygen. You can't breathe if you don't have a customer.
100%. So this question is from Kristen. What is your favorite mistake that you've made early on in your career that had the biggest positive impact on your success today?
Man. So as I mentioned, one of my mentors owned a bunch of restaurants. I didn't say what they were. They were McDonald's restaurants. And when I had the idea for Creadio, he let me test this live custom radio station in his restaurant. What he didn't tell me is this restaurant that he let me do it in didn't have a sound system. And so this is my first restaurant that I've ever put anything in. And so I had to figure out how to install a sound system. But also the kicker is there was no drop ceiling between where the office was and the lobby. It was just drywall. And so I didn't know how to get the wire above the ceiling to get to the lobby. And so I'm legit stapling speaker wire to the ceiling through the kitchen of a McDonald's restaurant. And it wasn't even commercial grade speaker wire. It was like car grade speaker wire.
You got that Best Buy.
So it was like, it's such a bad, faux pas to be doing, in the commercial environment. If the fire marshal would have come in, we would have all been bad. But I look back at that like, I was trying to figure it out. And so if you see a McDonald's with, staple hose through the ceiling, that was probably my McDonald's.
Oh God, that reminds me of my very first Zoom training where I was using a laptop that was probably older than me, and the thing just froze for 30 minutes, and the internet went out, and then the battery died, and I was it's got to be better than this next time.
Bad.
It's got to be better than this next time. All right, so this question is actually going to be for all of us.
Oh.
Well, I'll let you lead, Will.
Yeah.
So this question is from Vicky. What was the hardest part of getting your business up and running?
Getting over fear. And so I would say, number one, it wasn't hard, but there are so many mental roadblocks you've got to get over because so often we tell ourselves no. We'll say, oh no, that wouldn't work because, but did you try it? And so particularly coming from, a family where not a bunch of people were entrepreneurs, but they had entrepreneurial dreams and just didn't go after them or didn't succeed or whatever it was, we end up getting in these cycles of self-doubt. And I'm not going to sit up here and say I was the most confident person. I just knew what I wanted and I was just going to go. And it was out of ignorance. I didn't know what to ask. So I'm a goer. And so I just go. Not knowing which direction, but I know I want something and I'm going for it. But when you go and lay your head at night, I didn't mention this, I'll say it because it's important. 2 weeks before I closed on the building, which is now TolHouse, I almost had a nervous breakdown because I'm like, nobody in my family ever bought anything outside of their home. And here I am about to close in a couple days on a 25,000 square foot building. And I'm like, I remember sleeping on the couch that night, like, cause I couldn't move. And I'm like, can I cancel the closing date? I freaked out.
Yeah.
And so there are moments of self-doubt. There are moments of fear that will keep you stuck. And so there's this analogy I like to use in these moments of, anybody in the room ever play football? And I'm not going to give you a football thing, but if you'll appreciate this. And so in American football, when you've got the ball and you're running with the ball, and you got people trying to bring you down, trying to tackle you, and et cetera, the most important thing to do when they're trying to bring you down is keep moving your feet. It is not juke them, it is not spin, it is not run faster, it is not none of the most important thing to do, no matter how many people are on you, even if you're not moving forward, the most important thing to do is keep moving your feet in the face of fear, in the face of failure, in the face of depression, in the face of running out of money, the face of divorce. The most important thing to do is keep moving your feet.
I love that.
That is a mic drop.
Yeah. I think for me, the hardest part of getting things up and running is definitely learning how to let go so that you can grow, right? Because when you're thinking about that first hire, you're still in very much solopreneur mindset where you feel like you have to have your hands in everything.
Agree.
And usually your first hire is also going to be micromanaged by you because you just don't know how to let things go, right? And you're like hiring somebody to do something, but you're also doing it for them.
Absolutely.
And that level of trust that I think is required, you're giving a part of your baby to be taken care of by your business, by the employee. And I think that was definitely the hardest part for me, is just learning that I hired so that I don't have to continue burning out. And just learning that I don't need to be stirring the pot all the time.
I saw your IG, you popping now too. You're doing it.
Yes, she is.
I'm happy for you, man.
Thank
I love
you. I think for me, what was, the hardest part was getting over the fear of failure and failing publicly, right? I feel like back to what you were talking about, building a brand, the only way that you're going to be a true successful, big, entrepreneur, small business owner is like, oh yeah, you're the guy with the t-shirt company.
Yeah.
You're the guy that's got the whatever, right? And people are going to know you from that. And if your business fails, everyone now knows you're the guy with the failed business.
Yeah.
And for me, that was so hard because I didn't want to let down my friends. I didn't want to let down my parents. I didn't want to let down random people on the internet that I guess found me, right? But it's like getting over that hump of like, no, this is me. I really enjoy the process, and I'm not doing this for them. I'm not doing this for anyone but myself. I'm doing this for the journey, and I'm in it for the long haul.
100%. Success is the journey, man.
Oh, 100%.
Success is the journey.
Okay, so our next question comes from Kaylee. Kaylee says, how do you define success, and what kind of mindset shifts did you make that helped you develop your dreams to become a reality? So like what kind of mindset shifts did you make to help those dreams become a reality as you were sort of defining success?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying, the defining success part, I used to think defining success was like a dollar amount. But there's an endless dollar amounts always grow no matter what scale you're at. There's always another dollar amount. And so I like to think of success now is, do I get to wake up and do what I want to do? What did I get to choose the direction? I don't always get to choose the tasks because, you just have to, whack-a-mole, have to do a little bit of that when you run the business. But are these problems that I chose because I chose this path? And that's how I define success now is, do I get to work on things that I find interesting, hire out the things that I don't want to do, and build them for a business that I'm building? That's how I define success today. I forgot the second part of the question.
The mindset shift that you had to make.
Oh, so yeah, I'm a vision boarder.
Oh, okay.
And so before I bought TolHouse, I had buildings like TolHouse on my vision board because I knew one day I was going to have buildings. And so I believe that you should keep a vision in front of you of what your ideal life looks like. And because, again, we get caught up in the day-to-day mundane stuff, the stuff that keeps us busy and et cetera. And so you can end up being so far away from what your vision is for yourself if you're not paying attention to what the vision looks like. The purpose of the vision board is to keep your brain focused on this is the direction I'm going in. And if you write it down, you're more likely to just put it in a journal, close it up, put it in the drawer, whatever is on the table. You don't even open the thing. But when you have a visual of it right by my mirror when I get dressed in the morning, it's right there. I can see. And then I get to audit unconsciously all day long. Am I doing the things that help me get to that place I was looking at on my vision board this morning?
Well, I know this is obviously we're interviewing you, but this made me think about something that I do every year at the end of the year, which is I write down on a piece of paper 10 things that I accomplished that year. Because I think as entrepreneurs, we're living so fast,
100%.
right? Oh, I got to go do this. I have to go do this. And you're always thinking about the next thing. When in actuality, it's like, no, we actually accomplished a lot over the last 12 months, right? We should reflect and get excited about that.
Absolutely. Agree.
All right, so this next question is from Vanessa. We all know that first year of entrepreneurship is make or break for a lot of people. So how do you survive the adversity in that first year?
Realize you're not going to make it in the first year. That's really it. And so if you are expecting to be a year in and you struck gold, it just doesn't happen like that for most people. And so brace yourself for impact. That's what it is. And so I was writing on the plane here, I was writing just kind of like some thoughts I was having because, again, I told y'all, like, I go through these moments of like these big leaps and every one causes like a different sort of reaction. And I was thinking about like how business is war in so many respects. And it's war against going broke. It's war against self-doubt. It's war against, most of all of it's in your mind. 100%, I agree with that. And finding success, especially when you're starting to get something going, is a legit like scratching and clawing your way to it. It is survival in so many ways until it's not. And then once it's not, there's another level because somebody else is coming for it. And so I was telling my wife the other day, like, there is no stasis in business. Like, either you're growing or you're dying. That's it. Now, you may think, okay, we're flat, we're revenue neutral 3 years in a row. You think everything's solid. It's legit. You just don't see it. And so it's like dying slow in real life. It's like I can, eat poorly every day and I may not see it for the first 6 months or first year. You just don't see it yet, but it's coming. And so we have to put ourselves in the position to be thinking about growth at every stage because that's the only way business thrives is if it's growing.
No, I totally get that, right? The idea of business cycles and secular growth trends. And if you're operating within one, you want to be growing within that secular growth trend for sure. So our next question comes from Francis. And speaking of...
Francis?
What's up, Francis? When did you feel like you were finally able to take a breath and enjoy the fruits of your labor without falling off?
I don't do that. Yeah.
Always working?
That's not who I am.
Team no sleep.
I sleep, but this is my thing. Like, I love to do what I do. I love it. Mm-hmm. And some people will golf. I am mad at you if you golf. Some people play video games. I only play video games if I'm playing with my son. I love to work. And that's what I do. And so if I'm chilling with my family, then I get moments of breathing, and, to use that kind of analogy. And so I don't see rest how most people see rest. I enjoy, I love, I thrive, I find joy, all these things off of doing the work. And so, I don't know no other way to answer that, to be honest. I just don't do like you finally can rest on my laurels and let the business run itself. Like, the minute you do that, it's a wrap, man. I just believe that. That's just me.
Well, they say, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. So
there it is.
I like
love
that.
it. All right. So last season, we asked all of our guests to share their why. So that spark that keeps them going when times are tough, and even the thing that inspired them to open the business in the first place. Yeah. So what is your why?
Every piece of potential I have, I want it expressed in the real world. I don't want to miss nothing. When my day comes, I want to be like so exhausted and so tired because I gave everything to reaching my fullest potential. That is my why. I want to give every piece of creativity, every idea that is worthy to chase, every gift, every word of encouragement, every blessing to somebody, every piece of advice, every investment I can give. I want to give it all. I want to be empty when my day comes.
Will Lucas, everybody.